What is up, everybody? This is your girl, Martha D. Staub, owner of MDMC Entertainment, and today's episode, Business Building and Beyond. And today I have a very special guest, all the way from New Zealand, Mr. Jeremy Birchall. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you.
Oh my gosh.
It's 10 o'clock in the morning here on Saturday, so I'm in your future.
I love that. That's so great. How's everything in New Zealand?
We're good. We're all on level 1 now, so life has returned to normal. We don't have any COVID cases in the community. They're just in managed isolation. So fingers crossed, we're in a good place at the moment. And we've got elections going on at the moment, so all the campaigners are out for the next 2 weeks. So and I think there's another week of voting. So yeah, it feels good. It feels normal.
Wow, I'm so very jealous. I can't believe it. As you've seen, we're doing horrible. And I don't predict us to be anywhere near normal until after the election. I have a feeling someone's going to say they have the vaccine and they're going to tell us to vote for that person. I kind of have that feeling.
I have that feeling too, from what I'm seeing in the news at the moment. Yeah.
It's pandemonium. It's just nuts. I feel like, I love my country, but man, we look like a joke to everybody right now. I just know there are other countries lining up like, all right, we're ready to take over the US. Like, God,
it's funny, from our perspective, we see so much of the US news in our feeds. It's a fascinating, should I say, petri dish, the United States at the moment, pun intended. Yeah.
It's awful. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I'm so happy you're here. I mean, for those that don't know, you're an accomplished actor and a voice actor, and you've done quite a bit of work. How did you even get started in this? What was the motivator that got you and bit you with this acting bug?
Yeah, it's an interesting. I've thought about this a lot, and I think it's become clearer as I've got older how I wound up in this business. I mean, on the surface, I think it's really obvious that my father was an English drama teacher, my mother was a dance teacher, and they were running community theatre classes. So, it was free babysitting in that sense. So we'd go along and do the productions and be involved in the pantomimes with the dance studio, both my sister and myself. So, and we did all our exams. We did our dance exams. And I think there were times like through school holidays when mum said, oh, you got to practice. And I didn't really want to. I wanted to be out with my friends doing things, that were perceivably fun at the time. But yeah, she would say, oh, you need as many strings to your bow as possible. And she was right. But I think if I was going to talk nurture over nature, I think it was sort of more nurture over nature. And I struggled at school. When I was back there at school, they didn't have words like dyslexia or any learning disabilities. So it was just sort of lumped into learning disabilities. And it was more totalitarian school. It was, math, English, the sciences, and, you just had to keep up. And now education is a little bit more streamlined to the individual. It could be more. There are more arts programs in schools. But yeah, I believe my parents saw me on stage light up and saw that I enjoyed it and saw the community of people that I was in and said, you know what, you're really good at that. And I think it's because they saw my enjoyment in doing that. And therefore, I think that's where I felt most whole. And then I moved on to wanting to become an actor. So the next obvious step was training. And from Masterton, which is the small town in New Zealand, which is about 19,500 people. So it's really close to Wellington. It's about an hour away from Wellington. So I used to go down to Wellington and watch plays and musicals. And I went to school with Jermaine Clement. So Jermaine Clement and I were really good friends. And obviously Jermaine went to Wellington and I went to Auckland to study at the Performing Arts School there. And Jermaine went on to do Flight the Conchords, and I had a different career path. So yeah, out of a lot of great people have come out of Masterton. And I think it's at that stage we didn't have the internet as well. We didn't have YouTube. we just had our experiences within the community, and what we perceived was good. And we as New Zealanders are self-deprecating. We don't believe we're really good at anything. I think we just diversify and become, proficient. I don't know what that perception is from the outside, but yeah, we are a strange breed of people. So then from there, I went to Auckland to train at the Performing Arts School when I was 19, and I spent 2 years there full time.
Wow. So what kind of dance? Was it ballet?
When I was doing it, was jazz and tap dancing. So I kept my jazz dancing going right through to the end of my exams. So I have New Zealand Association of Modern Dance Solo Seal, so that's as far as you can go in jazz dance. And then tap sort of fell away, and I did my speech and drama exams as well. But I kept the jazz, and then when I got to Auckland and the hip hop movement was sort of taking over, we started sort of exploring that, and I taught open classes of hip hop for years, a decade.
That's so cool. I actually did. My mom threw me into ballet at age 5.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And because I'm 5'10", so I'm very tall, and so when I was younger, I grew too fast, too tall. Oh, cute! Hi.
Mackenzie.
She's wide awake now.
Just say hello.
Oh, hello. What's her name?
Mackenzie.
Mackenzie. Hi.
Hi, Mackenzie. This is Martha. Okay, I'm just going to put you out. Okay. Hold on a second.
No worries.
Bye.
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 Oh, cutest.
That's deja vu because that happened on an interview with Ryan as well from the Morphin.
Oh, it's totally fine.
Yes, you were telling me about your dance. I didn't know you were 5'10".
I'm 5'10". So when I was about 4 or 5, I was growing too fast, too tall, too quickly, and I was getting clumsy. And so my mom, she was like, "Oh, we need to really get you into something to coordinate you." And I was at the preschool that my mom worked at, and there was a girl that was in a leotard and tights, and I was like, "Oh my God, what are you doing? Like, why are you dressed like that?" And she says, "Oh, I go to dance, and down the street." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I told my mom, I said, "I want to go dance." I knew nothing about it. I just saw a little girl in the leotard, and I was like, "Let's do it." And then I went and saw it and saw it in person. I was like, "Oh yeah," I fell in love watching it. And then I did it. And then after the first class, my mom was like, "Okay, you can't quit after the first class. You have to stay all the way through." And I stayed all the way till I graduated high school. I did ballet and jazz, no tap. I was going to try and play with tap, but I was already overfilled with too much of being in the studio. I lived in the studio all my childhood. So, and I did the Nutcracker and things like that. So I saw for myself, it built up a sort of confidence, because when you go out onto a stage, you're thrown into whatever costume they pick for you, and you got to make it work. And so I noticed in school, for me, it was easy to get in front of a group and just talk and just present, and that built up that sort of thing. So unfortunately, I did not take it any further than high school. I wanted to move to LA. I live in San Diego, so I'm close to LA now, but after high school, I wanted to move to LA and be a backup dancer for like Janet Jackson and Britney Spears. And my dad's like, "No, you're going to college." And he's like, "You're not even that good." And I was like, "I know, because I know Hollywood is just as rough." And so I didn't pursue that, but I wish I had.
You can always go back too. You can do some community classes. So great for fitness. And as I said, I think just building on what you said, for children, it's really great for coordination, but also self-discipline. And as your mother said, you were to stick with it, and there are times that you just didn't want to go, and I didn't really want to go, but I'm pleased I did, and I think it's taught me probably the backbone of my career. To actually keep myself going and working through the tough times, for sure.
I totally agree with you. There was times where I was like, I'm going to quit. It just got so rough. And especially for girls, you're supposed to fit a specific mold, and me and my friends did very bad, eating disorder type things that,
Oh, really?
to fit into those costumes for the end of the year. And it got to a point where I was like, I'm gonna quit. And then I just said, no, I love it, because every time I get the new costume, it's like, okay, it's refound the energy to get back out there and do it. So I never quit. And of course I did healthy things. we had a season of that. We had to stop that.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely more consciousness now around for young performers around acceptance of who they are a lot more, and there's a lot more diversity in heights, sizes, weights, and we've got some of the best dancers in the world down here, especially in the hip hop. Paris Goebels, obviously, I think she just did one of the big fashion shows over there, and she's did Rihanna's music video, as also Jennifer Lopez. She did her music video as well. So yeah, from obscurity, little town, a little country down here in New Zealand, we're getting some amazing talent coming out of it. And I think that's because we're a little insulated down here too. We kind of have emulated the world a little bit,
right,
and then gone off and sort of found our own sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, well, New Zealand is like a nice little hub where a lot of things are being filmed down there. It's become, I mean, we saw the Lord of the Rings that was filmed down there. I mean, you guys have beautiful landscapes, and just, from what I have seen in pictures, I have not personally been to New Zealand yet. I will one day, once this is over. That's one of my first trips I want to take, is New Zealand.
Well, you're more than welcome. So I'd love to meet you when you come down here.
Oh my God, I'd love that too. But I feel like it's now become, Hollywood now runs to New Zealand now to produce their pictures and their shows, and it's become a really great, probably a great economic booster for you guys too.
Oh yeah, billions of dollars. We've got two major productions here at the moment, which is obviously Lord of the Rings, the TV show, and I know some people that are working on that, and that will probably run indefinitely. I don't know how far they're going to take it, but they've got millions, hundreds of millions of dollars invested, Amazon in that. I think it's Amazon. Yeah. And then, of course, the Avatar movies as well. So they've got Avatar 2 and 3, I think, finished. And then there's at least another, I think, up to Avatar 6 to be completed. So that's obviously Auckland and Wellington crews are really, really busy. And, yeah, I did see, actually, just adding on what you said, I saw the other day in an article that for the first time, New Zealand passport is the most valued passport in the world now.
That's because there's nothing happening down there. It's like the most coveted one out there. I think ours, ours definitely decreased in value now. It's weird. I don't know. It's in the state of California, for some reason, we had to get a real ID. So the California license has to have the California bear and the star in the middle in order for you to board an airplane. And I'm like, that's dumb. We have, what about a passport? And I guess I mean, you can use a passport, but to fly domestically, you have to have that specific license. So I don't know why that omitted the passport. It's weird. I don't know what the hell's going on here.
No, it's so strange.
So odd. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. So weird.
Yeah, an episode of the Twilight Zone.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's amazing, and I guess because of all the production happening there, you've fallen into great production work with Power Rangers. You've done quite a bit of voice acting, correct?
Yeah, I've just done recently a couple of interviews about my work, and I didn't realize actually once I put it down on paper how much work I'd done, and it was from 2002 when I started right up to last year's season, which I had a character on as well, Railtron, and also looping on the program as well. So yeah, I think that's a couple of decades now, and yeah. And obviously, production's is kicked off or is kicking off at the moment for the most recent one, which is Dino Fury.
Yeah. That's insane. So let me ask you, do you prefer being in front of the camera, or do you love being behind the camera and lending your voice and creating something new that way?
Interesting question. I mean, both fulfill me. I think I love being in front of the camera, and I grow as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
I become more egoless. I think if I'm in front of the camera, because every time between projects, you see yourself age, you see yourself mature, you see yourself take on different sorts of roles that are appropriate to who you are now.
Mm-hmm.
In the studio, you're a little bit more behind the camera or doing voice stuff. You are a little bit more insulated to your progression as a performer because your voice relatively stays the same. And I make predominantly most of my work now in voice and directing.
Mm-hmm.
And I must admit, I really enjoy that kind of work because I think it fulfills that obsessive compulsiveness in me in preparation. And as well, like I think I love being in control. And I think with my dyslexia, sometimes in front of the camera, I feel sometimes a little bit out of control. Most alive, and I grow a lot, but I feel more in control behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, it's crazy because, I don't know. And I've asked voice actors this many times. I just don't understand how do they give you a picture of the character you're portraying and then you come up with it? Or is it like, how do you find that specific voice for that?
yeah, I think there's sometimes two indicators. Usually the name for me, how it's written. It sometimes is a signpost right to finding the voice, especially with Power Rangers. The writers like to mash ideas together, and like Railtron obviously was a good indication, but they're quite secretive about their imagery before you audition. So I'll just get a script and a brief, and then when I get into the studio, then they'll show me some footage, and that can sometimes take me in another direction. I think also having preparation is really, really important, but being open to direction and fluidity in where you might go is super important. Comedians are really good at that, and I work with quite a lot of comedians who have a toolbox of different strategies to get there. But my process is usually I start with the name. If I'm given a picture, yeah, that would definitely be a good marker point to sort of work from the voice. But ultimately, I come in prepared, and I will come in with a recording and an idea. So usually, I'll take a word, just one word from the script, and that's my in to the character. So that helps me find the voice. So then I can keep a sustainability for it. Yeah.
That's amazing. I feel like that's probably the most creative process, or the most creative job you can have. Is you're no one's telling you voice it like that. You have to create it yourself, and no one.
Yeah, and I've been on the other side where I am directing people for another project, and you'll see lots and hear lots of people, and then the right person just comes in and it just fits, and there's that person might have auditioned like for 20 other characters and not got it, and then they get it because it just fits in that moment.
Wow.
So yeah, diversifying as much as you possibly can with your voice.
So when you do the audition, and I get maybe the team that is creating the specific project, I feel like, well, I don't know if this is possible. Maybe you can explain it to me, but does everyone just line up and then present the way they created it, and then they pick out the best one that matches what they think it's going to be? Is that how that works?
Yeah. So the process from woe to go, like I'll get a time slot, and then I'd go into my time slot, and then for 15-minute time slots potentially record 2 characters, and I'll get maybe 2 or 3 takes, probably 2 takes on that, and then they'll choose one of those takes for that character. Then what that will happen from there, that gets edited by their engineer, and then it's raw audio, so there's no effects on it, anything like that. We call it dry, and then it just gets sent to the producers, and then they will just choose. They'll stack. Well, from the process when I work on a video game, it goes to 3 different people, and then they don't talk, and then they put their best 3 together, and sometimes they coincide, and it's maybe 1 or 2 people they've chosen. So that's how I understand the process works from my side when I've worked in that sort of other side of it, which is choosing and working with actors. And I believe that's probably the same for Power Rangers.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
And so if you think there's 15-minute slots and they see people physically, and that's a day, probably from 10 till 4, and it might run over 2 days, they see a few people. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's interesting. Now, I looked up something, and I don't know if this is accurate, but are you a composer as well?
No, there's a guy with my...
there is, right?
In the UK, yeah. It's funny because for a while, I think we both had each other's credits on IMDb. We had to correct them. And he's got jeremybirchall.co.uk, and I've got jeremybirchall.com. Yeah.
Well, and maybe this is where I got confused, because it's, you are a New Zealand actor, but there is some places that say you're an American actor.
Yeah, I think some of the work that I've done, American work, they think I'm an American.
Oh,
but I'll take that. Nothing wrong with Americans.
I was gonna say, okay, how'd you land down there? Let's talk about that, because you're one of the.
And my Kiwi accent, amazing,
I mean, you're an actor. You can do anything at this point.
Not all actors can do everything. That's for sure. As I said, self-deprecating New Zealanders, we survive. We survive.
That's amazing. Okay, well, I was wondering, because I was like, this doesn't sound right, but I'll ask.
Yeah, if I was egotistical, I'd say, yeah, all that work I've done. Yeah. No.
You come from a family of performers. I thought maybe you learned some instruments as well, and you're composing stuff too.
I play guitar, and but I sing for my daughter.
Oh, that's so sweet. I like that.
Yeah.
So, oh man, I just feel like you have, and you've done video games as well, is what you said, right?
Yeah. So, I suppose just talking about the gamut of work that I do. In this country, when I say diversifying is quite important to survive, because the work here is diverse. So working in theatre and working as a choreographer as well. So and I've done that, and I still continue doing that, and work as a director for stage, and also a video game that I work for, which is Path of Exile by Grinding Gear Games. So I am their voice director and coordinator for that video game, and every 3 months we release a new league for that game. So there's 4 leagues every year, and that is perpetual, and it just keeps going, and they keep building the game. So this year we won a BAFTA award, and for, gosh, I'd have to check what that is, but it was we beat Fortnite and some other games as well. So the game has gone really, really big since 2013, since it came online, and I've been working for them now for 2 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I know the performing arts definitely took a big hit during COVID, and all of Hollywood shut down, and I'm sure things shut down on your side. What have you been doing to nurture that creativity during that time? Because I know creatives can't stay still. What have you been up to? Is there any way that you've been teaching online or teaching, choreography, dance, and things like that? What's been going on?
I've been working online with Path of Exile. So what we did just recently, we released a game called Heist, well, the league called Heist, and my job was to find 13 actors, and obviously I couldn't physically go anywhere. So what I did is I contact agents, and I dealt with about 5 or 6 agencies, and we had submissions. So there was a lot of admin and emailing backwards and forwards. And then we had 104 actors submit over four each. So there was 400 audio pieces submitted for those 13 characters. Wow. So that went out to the guys that make the game, and then they chose their actors. And then from there, we had to actually, this is just crazy, but we had to actually record all that material, and that had to happen online. So some of it happened. I had 3 actors in the UK, and they have home recording studios. And so what we do is we get onto Source Connect, myself and the writer, and we'd sit there with headphones, and myself and him would direct their performances from where they were in their time zones. So whilst we were recording with a recording studio in Auckland. So so that's Source Connect, and therefore there was a couple of weeks of solid recording with that. So that was full time, and so we achieved that, and that absorbed a lot of the lockdown. And also, what we did is we also had actors that were based in Auckland go to the recording studio under strict, conditions, that they had no contact. They had to contact via text at the door, get let in. Everything was swabbed down. They would record for 4 hours, then they'd get out, and we were the same, just listening from where we were. And that I've done that, and I've been working on a animation TV show with a friend of mine. So we've been pitching that and working about trying to see that come to light, which would be good.
That's fantastic. See, I think sometimes I feel like COVID was the reset everyone needed to work on those projects we haven't, we put off to the side and things like that. So that's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah. What about yourself? Have you managed to sort of, you're working online a lot? Yeah.
Well, it's funny because, I'm a digital marketing agency. I'm a startup. I started about a year ago. My business was a side business for a long time. So I would work a 9 to 5. And then when I got home, I worked on whatever projects. And I worked a lot with the Power Ranger fandom and some Rangers that are still clients to this day. So a lot of them don't manage their own social media. Spoiler alert, everybody. There's just too many fans and weird things. And, the decorum out there is just, I think people are very brazen these days. Like the way they interact with people they don't know. I'm just like, oh my God, so I obviously deflect all that before my person sees.
Well, just adding to that, it's a new frontier in regards to this faceless sort of society we sometimes work in. And I'm the same, because I have on my LinkedIn, obviously, the voice and coordinator for Path of Exile, and I have people randomly emailing me all the time, sending me stuff and demos, and it's cool, and I like doing that, but it's a lot of people.
Yeah, no, it's insane. But luckily, I'm one of the small businesses that didn't get affected by COVID. I got very lucky. I got a very large client at the beginning of December of last year, and that has carried me and fed me all the way through. And then I've picked up several others that have contributed to keeping my lights on and everything. So it's been substantial growth over the past, year. So I'm very, very fortunate that.
Congratulations. It's a great success story.
I cannot believe I'm like, this is the worst time to start a business. And what I started to see was that not many people could acclimate to COVID. A lot of people were busy protesting and like going out to the streets. I'm like, what are you doing? Get out of the streets, get back into your business and figure out how you're going to cater to your people. A lot of people don't have their infrastructures up and running correctly. Some people's websites weren't working correctly to be able to manage the new stress that they was about to get. So it's just a mess. So I've been helping people acclimate to this new world, because I have a feeling we're going to be like this for at least another year. I'm hearing the Comic-Con world isn't going to get back up and running until 2022. Oh, really? So it's, entertainment and beyond. I'm doing all of the beyond stuff right now. I'm dabbling in a little bit in the entertainment for what I can, but the other stuff and the other industries that I work in have been very fruitful and successful. So I'm very fortunate for that. So, but during COVID, we did start up this this podcast, this digital series. You know, this eventually ends up going on to Spotify and into our podcast world. So we're branching out. We're trying to, you know, spread the word of who we are, what we do, and how we do it. So it's been a fun, exciting time. Sadly.
Just adding to that, one of the largest insurance agencies here in New Zealand has, they've closed up all their shops, but they're still running as a business, but it's now just purely gone into call centers and running the whole thing online. I think they realized, as you said, that it has been a really good exercise, COVID, to reset everything. And as much as that's not is going to leave a lot of empty shops, they've realized now that people don't physically want to go into buildings. They don't want to. They've got busy lives, and they can do all that stuff online. So I just hope people don't lose jobs. But I think through this, there'll be new occupations, new things created for a different future.
Well, I think it's funny for the big corporations that was always telling their employees, you can't do your job at home. For those employees yearning for that work-life balance, and they could never get it, and then COVID happened, it's like, well, now it can be done that way. So, you know, maybe this might be something that, you know, corporate businesses can start, you know, rethinking into their lives, because a lot of employees are leaving companies because they don't have that, and they're going on into the entrepreneurial world. And so I find it interesting.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
I'm really fortunate. I don't live in Auckland anymore, so we moved a year ago, and so I live up north, and so we've got a little bit more land, a little bit more property, and so I can now sort of do a bit of work, and I can have a bit more lifestyle, and we can spend more time together as a family. I think that's really important as we grow older too, just finding that lifestyle work balance. As what you probably was a major motivator for you, it was finding that happiness and bliss within work and life. Yeah.
That, and I just didn't want to work for dumb people anymore. I was like, I'm done.
Say it as it is.
Something about having your own destiny in your hand is it's very empowering, but it's very scary because it's on you to feed yourself. So you better figure out where your next meal is coming from. So it's a very great motivator. I think it keeps the discipline up, to be honest.
I agree. And it's the same. I've been independent artist now working since 1995. Wouldn't have a normal job, but I go from project to project. And also, you know, we want these other things, which are normal things like families and buying homes and having cars, all those things. And we should be able to have those. So it's just about planning and strategy and putting a bit aside for the rainy day, and then working on whatever your future may be.
So what's your strategy whenever, because, you know, like most people don't understand, actors are freelance. They are independent contractors. They go in and they do a job and then they're done. What is your strategy once a job is over, to pick up the next gig and to keep that pipe going?
Yeah, I think it's always looking at your bottom line, because what it is to run your life is pretty important. Like, I think, you know, having a spreadsheet running what your costs every year is, and they grow as your children grow, and as your needs and wants grow as well. But I think it's consolidating your what is stable. And I know I have two gigs every year that are actually relatively stable, and I know what those incomes are roughly, and they don't vary too much. That's my bottom line, and I know that can maintain a lifestyle and a household. And at the moment, my wife's not working while we can look after our little girl and be here for her. And sometime in the future, she'll be able to work as well. But I think with performers, there's a fine balance between being proactive and also being available. So we have a balance of having to say no to our agents. I have 2 agents, actually 3 agents now. I have an acting agency, I have a voice agent, and I also now have a voice directing agent. So they, you have to be available for them to call you at a relatively short notice and say, by the way, you need to go and audition tomorrow for a job that could take, you away for 9 months. But also flexibility of being able to work is really, really important too. So you have to couple. Some people have, I know of actors that are photographers, are very successful photographers, and also run online businesses, drop shopping, all sorts of other things like that, that can actually sustain their careers. So in the States they have more, and the UK they have residual. In this country, in New Zealand, we very, very rarely get residual payouts. They're buyouts. So when we do an advert, we might get paid quite a bit of money for it, and then if it rolls over the next year, we might get 100% payout again for it, and then usually they'll probably fall off. But there are some big paying advertising gigs out there, but they're usually buyouts, and then therefore you'll make no more money on them again.
Wow. So what if a project from, let's say you got the 2 payouts out of that, and then it ends up going into like the US market, you don't get residuals out of that?
Yeah, they usually sometimes drop down to 80-60%. But from the get-go in a contract, if you were talking about a big client, you'd be looking at you'd be looking at signing out internet, point of sale, everything, probably perpetually. But usually, and the buyout could be massive. It could be really, really big. I know that when I was working in the UK, it went from region to region. So if your advert was working in that region, then you had that buyout and that buyout there. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit of a shock to people when they think, you're a big star, or people that but they've been bought out. They don't make more money on their work. They don't get residuals on some of their stuff.
Well, I mean, I've seen some residual checks. Sometimes I have a voice actor friend. She, I think she sent us pictures of like 5 cents, 10 cents, I'm like, good Lord, you were on like epic television, like kids, you're on Nickelodeon, and this is what you get as your residual. So residual, isn't, depending on what it is, may not be that big.
Yeah, there's a bar, I think it's a bar in LA, which is, it's got all the actors' residual checks that are just really, really poor. They put them up on the wall.
Yeah.
Like a 5 cent residual check is just like not even worth the stamp,
It's just ridiculous. I was like, so what do you do with all of them? She's like, I just put them in a drawer, and then, once that drawer gets fuller and fuller, then I take it to the bank, and, I'm $5 richer. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I think just coming back to your question about that strategy, I think what we want is a sense of control in what we're doing, and work satisfaction with what we're doing, but still feeling a part of a form of community. And I think the perception also by people that looking in at the arts or actors is that we have an amazing community, but it's actually really, really isolated. And mental health in our industry is really, really poor, to tell you the truth. I mean, it's because we go from small projects to medium projects, and then we on the hustle again. We're fighting for the job. So it's not that we don't trust people. It's just we don't sometimes rub shoulders with people enough. We're just working in our little bubbles. So it takes quite a bit of effort. And then you have the conversation about, what are you up to? Oh, okay, cool. Well, I'm an actor and resting, or, I'm studying, or I'm, waiting tables, or whatever you're doing.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of, especially during COVID time, this would be a great opportunity to do it, but it's up to you. I don't know if you'd ever think about it, but have you ever thought of teaching, like, how to voice act? Because I think that alone, or just some of your skills, you ever thought about just opening up that door and teaching aspiring actors to?
Oh yeah, I have taught at one of the universities here, voice acting, and I did a couple of years of that. I haven't gone online to do that. One thing I think is that I think teaching is seasonal. I think also that people who teach perpetually all the time sometimes lose touch a little bit with industry, and they become institutionalized. So I've just discussed just recently with my wife about looking at next year actually expanding back into teaching again. But I did teach for years. I taught dance for years.
Yeah.
I taught voiceover for years, and at university level. The one thing I think I always say to actors, whatever discipline I'm teaching, is diversify as many strings to your bow as you possibly can, because I think you probably find that within your own industry as well. Once you're working one type of client, industries implode. I'm really fortunate because I'm not working just in the live events. There's no live events so much been happening in this country, but I'm working in a different domain. So yeah, getting that passion up to teach again, I'm starting to get it now. I think you have to really, really want to impart that. I don't want people to go into this industry as well, because I really care about people's mental health. Right. I'm going to train 20 people to become voice actors and they don't get work, and they're going to impart money to do that, because I'm not in a situation at the moment that I desperately need the money to do it. I have to really care about imparting that knowledge, you know.
Well, that's a good mindset to go into it with, because you don't want to just do it just to do it, you know. There's got to be a reason behind it. Okay.
I think so. I think it's about a responsibility. I see a lot of people who throw classes out all the time that are doing that, and I know they're just making money, and they could be lying on some sort of level to say the work's there. But why I like working with young kids in the performing arts as well, like, you know, the teenagers and that sort of age, is because it comes from a more pure place in regards to self-confidence and you know, boosting their circle of friends, and also working within a project from beginning to end. So one of the gigs that I do every year is actually working at one of the high schools directing their musicals, and we go through a process, and I've done it for 7 years. So we do the whole process from the auditioning process to the closing night, and being a part of that that small world, because it's a whole world in itself. They come nervous, they then get the roles, they go through the auditioning process, they go through the rehearsal process, they go through the production process, they go through the performance process, and they're changed people, and they don't always want careers on the stage, and very few of them do, but they you can see it infects their lives. They become better communicators, better friends, and more present as people because of that process, and I really enjoy that, because I think that's pure.
That's so cool. Yeah. Aw. Is there a role out there that you've had your eye on that you haven't had it yet? What's one of those goals for the ultimate role that you would love to have?
Yeah, I mean, on film, I mean, my greatest passion is working on film, acting there. And those roles come few and far between. I might do one every 3 years or 4 years, and I'm sort of drawn towards the more darker and gritty characters. And I did one for this. I did a pilot for Sci-Fi where I played for Riverworld, which was a really great process. I was in it for 2 months, and I played a character from a concentration camp, and who had died and then been reborn in another world. So that was for Sci-Fi Channel, and that was really fantastic. And I got to work with accent on screen as well. And then I did another film called Heaven, which was based on a book, and that was a really dark character. And I was only 22 when I did it, and it took me years to process, because film doesn't lie. And I think everyone has the levels of darkness and light within inside of them. So when you go in an auditioning process and the director pulls you out for a very dark and sinister character, it kind of gives you a perspective into yourself, going, wait, what did you see in me that felt real to portray that character? And that was a really interesting process as a performer, talking about who we are as humans, and that we are really only just pulling out these lights and shades of ourselves. And then only a few years ago, I did another character that was it was called Crackheads, and the 4 characters went into methamphetamine sort of stupor. They all got addicted to meth, and I really like divulging into those sort of worlds where it's something that I've never done, but you get to the closeness or the brink of what it might feel like or be there, and then you come out the other side and you feel change. So I think if you're asking about a future role, something along the lines, I think that would be close to my own life at the moment. We're navigating a world as parents, and I'd like to maybe be a father on screen. Also, we have a child with ASD, autism, which Mackenzie just saw there. So that profoundly changes you as well, and the kind of art you want to make, and sort of art that you're drawn to. And I think it's about art that shapes and changes people and makes people think. The younger egotistical person was more about myself and, wham, bam, I want to be a superhero. But no, I want to be relatable, and I want to tell stories.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I hope you get to do that. That sounds like we need more stories like that. I feel like we're kind of just stuck in one rhythm, in one way of the stories that we get told to. And, we need more of that. We need more real life, more.
Yeah. Would you agree that I think in the last 20 years that they've thrown so much money at trying to make us escape, that where we really want to be now is we want to be led to the truth of our lives, that we have actually quite lovely lives that we need to look at in a more romantic way. That I think we feel mundane. I think we've tried to emulate the superhero for such a long time that we need to actually look at that we are the superheroes of our lives. And I think it'd be amazing to see more of those stories, which are not about sometimes the special effects, but about the human stories.
I mean, I think I find myself, I do love Marvel and all that stuff. That's great.
I do too.
I probably watch that once and then I'm done with it. But, on a regular night, I am, if I'm working or whatever it is that I'm doing, I'm just chilling. I'm looking for a documentary. I want to see happening. Like, I love documentaries. I love a really good documentary. So that's where I've seen my focus shift quite a bit. It's like I'm not looking to escape. I'm looking to see what are these people. I love stories. I started out my career as a reporter and an editor of a newspaper. So, getting to meet people and listen to them talk about their stories and what makes people tick was always my thing, and so when it came to doing the show, I was like, eventually we'll have guests and I want to know what makes them successful. And I love hearing people and where they come from and what they've done. And to me, that's more fulfilling, to be honest.
So. I agree. And I think I'm totally the same. I'm more in the documentary sort of non-fictional space at the moment, but I do love going into the Marvel world and escaping there too. And I just watched the Paris Hilton documentary.
What was it?
Yeah, it was great. I just stumbled on it online, and and I thought it was. I thought actually, it was a microcosm, the macrocosm. I thought, she was the first influencer. She was the first person that took the selfie. She was 20 something years into that. Working paparazzi, and I thought where she's arrived right at now is the new truth, and that is that people want to see deeper into the person and their trauma a little bit more, and in a way that's transformative trauma, which is this is who I am now because of what has happened to me, and I think that's the new hero story. It's how we can now identify how we got here and our decision making and how we're going to move on in a positive way. And I think that they succeeded, that documentary. I was quite intrigued. I was quite surprised. Her public persona is a mask. It's completely different. But when she speaks as just a normal person at home, her voice is so deep. It's really different.
Yeah, it's not the Valley Girl accent. Yeah.
No, it's like, hi. She's like that as her public persona, but she's really deep. Her mother actually said something in a candid moment. She says, she's sharp. She's actually probably one of the most intelligent people you would meet. And it's hard to sort of correlate that, because her goal at the moment is to have a $1 billion business industry, based on her products and her brand. And I believe she'll do it. She must be pretty close. So
I mean, I feel like she got robbed. Okay, the Kardashians took everything from her. I don't understand how those people are still around.
Well, Kim Kardashian actually compliments her and said, "I learned everything I needed to know from Paris Hilton in it." Yeah. So yeah. I think it's going to be interesting to see the new kind of reality as we see now the broken bird syndrome, which is we've seen the gloss, but now we want to see behind the veil a lot more of these people. Yeah.
To me, that's far more intriguing. I mean, I was looking at, and I know this is really sad, but Britney Spears, eventually one of these days we're going to get the full story on that. And I can't wait to hear it because I feel like we're not getting all of it. And I feel like she's one of those that is, came out so glossy and now she's completely broken. At least we think she's broken. I don't know what's really happening. So I'm waiting for that story to be told.
Yes, CIA, mind control, MK Ultra, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Roseanne Barr, I think that's, she said the same thing. So
yeah.
It's
also now I think the road home for Ellen as well. Like, I mean, potentially, if she's to have a career as well in the future, is actually to get more into her life rather than her public persona. And I think that's invasive, but I think we're not in what should I say, internet age of information. I think we're in a truth age now. I think we can see everything we want to see, but we want to know the truth. Yeah. And the truth is hard to find. And I think we're going to be rewarded a lot more when people can be more exposed and just speak from their heart and be less egotistical in their approaches towards me.
Yeah, I agree. I think especially now with COVID, you're forced to look at your family, you're forced to be with them. And, I think there's an awakening happening, I think. And so hopefully, people can stop being so mean to people online and, start appreciating the life that, we had, because we don't have it anymore. I don't know when we're going to get it back. Well, for us in America, you're back to normal. But, I hope this has awakened an appreciation for life.
I agree. I think that's the word. I think awakening is probably the maximum for that. Yeah, awakening. Feels that way.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up here. Jeremy, where can people find you?
Well, that's interesting because I think, I need to get less lazy about myself in regards to my platform. And that's finding a happy place for myself, which is not so ego-driven, I suppose. But I do have jeremybirchall.com, which I built the website 10 years ago. So I've got to rebuild it now. And I've learned, obviously, recently Squarespace, but I'm going to, I have got an Instagram account. I think it's Gemboy Kiwi. Yet again, I'm not putting stuff out there. So I really apologize, Martha, about that sort of stuff. And I'm just on LinkedIn. So my goal is to become a little bit more platform savvy.
Okay. Yeah. Does that not affect, I have friends in LA who still audition and do stuff. And one of the things that they said was when they go into an audition, the people looking for whoever they're going to cast looks at the social media numbers. And if they're not where they need to be, they don't get the part. Yeah,
I think we had a loose conversation, you and I, earlier on pre-recording this about that is becoming a key factor now into working, which is kind of sad, but we either have to move towards it or and embrace it and try and find some form of integrity within it. But yes, I totally understand that is happening. And also with conventions now, that you have to have a certain amount of followers because obviously that brings ticket sales through the doors, and also how the online platforms now can monetize as well. So that is our future.
I didn't know if that was happening in New Zealand yet. I knew in LA because, of course, everyone here is, full of themselves. That's just the standard now. And I didn't know if that had affected you guys down there as
Well,
well.
put it this way: is nepotism going to change? No, it's not going to, and we have to become friends with that in this industry, and it works. I don't sometimes go out and audition for things. I get a phone call to come and work, and the industry that I work in is quite small, and we like working with people we like working with. So, and we take care of our own to a certain degree, and I think that's that fine balance when I'm in my position, also to. If I'm making decisions or putting people in front of me, it's important that I don't work on that level all the time, but also I see new people and we have new people moving through all the time, and that's fair. And I think that's that has to be managed with popularity, social platform, but also seeing people face to face that you don't know.
Yeah, so true. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and joining me on this Saturday morning. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
And I wish you nothing but the best. And hopefully we'll see you soon. I don't know when, but we'll see.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Martha. It's been really great to talk to you.
It's been great talking to you too. So thank you, everybody. And we'll see you in the next video.
Bye.